Mindful Life Practice.
What I want you to have with you is some pillows, maybe a blanket. I'm going to see if I can find my candle and my lighter. Here. Yes, having a nice smelling candle, I think, will help me transition from our go, go, go vinyasa to our stillness of our restorative. So we're going to start our practice tonight in a seated meditation. Or if you're more comfortable in a different shape, take a different shape, it doesn't really matter. Just want you to feel supported. And in your comfortable seat, let your body be relaxed. Spine straight. Just rest your hands face down on the knees or the thighs. Close your eyes and let yourself settle into stillness. And then you kind of want your body to be alert and relaxed. And then just be aware. So as you breathe in and out, just notice the thoughts, the feelings, the noises, the smells, the physical sensations like itching, maybe your body's temperature, any pain or discomfort that you experience. Don't try to analyze what you're observing or what you're feeling. Just be present and alert and watchful as you just kind of witness what's going on. Maybe you can notice the quality of the sensation, if it has one, and categorize it like tightness in the shoulders. I just had a coffee earlier, so a bit of a coffee aftertaste. I hear the hum of my refrigerator. Maybe you have anxious thoughts about work. Maybe worry about what's going on in the world. Just let yourself be present with sensations, the feelings, repetitive thoughts without judgment. As it fades away or maybe lessens in intensity. And slowly bring your awareness back to the here and now. We'll take 3 slow, deep breaths. Breathing in through your nose. Breathing out through your mouth. In through your nose. Out through your mouth. And one more in through the nose. And then out through the mouth. We're going to do a tiny bit of movement just before we drop into stillness. So take a breath in, sweep your palms up towards the sky. And then let's exhale the right palm onto the mat, breathe in. And then exhale into a side bend. Inhale all the way up through center. And then exhale the opposite way. Take a breath in, come all the way up. And then twist, left palm on right thigh, right arm behind you, gaze over the right shoulder. And then inhale all the way up through center. And then twist the opposite way. Come all the way back. And we're going to shift off of those pillows just for a moment. Come into your table. Knees underneath the hips, palms underneath the shoulders. And then move through some cat-cows. So inhale into your cow. And then exhale into your cat. And then just go with this flow. And please feel free to make it any way your own. Like maybe you curve to one side and the next. And then come all the way back into center. Take your right palm up towards the sky. And then let's just thread our right arm underneath the left and rest onto the shoulder and take a few deep breaths. And come all the way up. And then go the opposite way. So left arm reaches up. Thread your left arm underneath the right. And then come all the way up. And just sit the hips back on the heels. So we're going to come into our first pose. We're going to take a butterfly pose and we're going to do a forward fold with this. Okay, so prop yourself up in whatever way you want. You might be sitting on the cushions with your knees together and then your heart knees open wide, feet together, heart comes forward. You also might want to put your pillows underneath your knees and then roll forward. And then a final option is to like support yourself up like this. And then come all the way forward like this. Okay, so a ton of different things. I think I'm gonna put my pillows underneath my knees. Normally I don't choose that, but I feel like it tonight. So we are hitting day 16 of this 30-day yoga challenge, which is crazy to me because it feels like yesterday that we started this. And I know not everyone here is in that challenge, but we have been moving through the different yamas and niyamas of yoga, which are the ethical commitments. And basically it's like almost like outlines of ways to live our life. And for me, when I first encountered the Yoga Sutras, they meant a lot to me because I was pretty unhappy in the way I was living. And they helped me come a bit more into equanimity and balance and find a bit of happiness. And so we've learned about the first 4 yamas. I'm going to review them now. So the first yama is ahimsa. That's what we started with. And it's a commitment to nonviolence. Right? Maybe our tendency is to gossip or to judge others. And ahimsa is all about letting go of this. And when we let go of that, we receive some peace. Satya is truth, and that's one that I constantly struggled with growing up. I was always the kid that over-exaggerated every story, which is not the truth. And that's something that I still have to take into balance and still constantly work on. You know, when I'm over-exaggerating, what is it? Why do I feel unfulfilled in my life? Why do I not feel like this story is good enough in its original version? You know, what is motivating me to do this? So that's satya, commitment to satya. Ahimsa, satya, what's number 3? Skip 3, I'm going to come back to it. 4 is brahmacharya, and we were speaking about this yesterday. Brahmacharya is moderation, right? So we live in this culture and this society that's like more. Credit card debt and iPhone X and Lululemon pants, and can we restrain ourselves to almost only taking what we need and moderating our consumption in whatever way, shape, or form that means for us. Okay, I remembered what number 3 is. Number 3 is asteya. Asteya is stealing, non-stealing. Told the story about the scissors that Rolf tried to borrow from a resort in Mexico, my teacher. And he realized that the scissors are actually very important to the resort because scissors don't grow on trees in the forest in Mexico. And he had to open up his suitcase and give those scissors back and realize that even though we think we don't steal, we borrow and not return things. Anyway, so we've moved through Yoga Sutra number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and our 5th Yoga Sutra that we're getting to now, our 5th yama is Aparigraha. And this is a favorite of mine. It's non-hoarding. Let's stay in this forward fold for just one more breath. And then we're gonna come all the way back up out of it. You're in there for a long time, weren't we? Just take your knees together. Give yourself a little bit of a hug. And the next pose we're going to take, it's called dragonfly pose. So this is a wide-legged forward fold. If you guys have been to my classes recently, you'll probably know that this is my least favorite pose in the history of all yoga poses. The reason why is that I just find it difficult to take this tilt forward. So you're gonna open your legs wide. If your knees are floating off, you can always like put your pillows underneath your knees. And I think I'm gonna do that because I have like a hard time getting into this pose. And then you're gonna take a breath in and then just slowly start to like roll forward. And if you wanna support your head, I'm gonna go grab a couple of my yoga blocks actually, because we're gonna be here for a while. You can also put pillows. Just try to make it be somewhere that you're comfortable, as possible as that is in this uncomfortable shape. We are doing restorative, so it's not like yin where we want to get to an edge, right? So I'm going to sort of prop myself up like this. So make do with whatever you have at home. I know that many of us don't have yoga blocks. You can also use books. You could use a little table, whatever, really, a chair. So let's talk about Aparigraha. This has been a really relevant yama to me personally, because I grew up with my dad, who many of you have met. He comes to my beginner's yoga. And something about my dad is that he is a hoarder. Love him dearly. He's my dad. But my dad has difficulty letting go of things. He sees the value in everything. And, you know, he has like 5 bikes in his garage. I'm like, Dad, you're one person. Why do you need 5 bikes? Dad, why do you have like multiple microwaves? Right? And so growing up as a child, this was kind of stressful for me. I've now accepted that like everyone lives differently, and I've accepted that his house is going to look the way that it always has and it always will for the rest of life. But when I was a kid, this tendency was stressful because our house was full of stuff. And I adopted this tendency too. I thought that I couldn't throw out anything. You know, I had a bedroom full of like movie tickets and photos and books and toys, and, you know, you could barely even move inside my room. It was full of so much stuff. And I carried on living this way until I was 23. And the only thing that triggered this change in me was that I moved abroad to Kuwait for the first time. And when I moved to Kuwait, I could only take 2 suitcases on the plane. So I really had to go through all my stuff and figure out what was the most important. And I remember moving into this apartment in Mabula in Kuwait, and the cupboards were just so empty. Like I just had the stuff that I needed. The shelves were empty. You know, there were like 10 books on the shelf instead of like 200. And what I received from this process was like a mental peace. This spaciousness that I had never had before. You know, I had so little belongings and they were enough. And I saw how when we let go of these things that we don't need or don't serve us, it can be scary. But what we can receive from this can be really beautiful if we open our minds to it. So let's take one more round of breath in this dragonfly forward fold. And then just come all the way up. And then we'll slowly move our props out of the way. And we're gonna come into one more forward fold now. We're gonna come into a caterpillar pose. So in this pose, legs out in front of you, actually I'm gonna move. I'm gonna sit on one cushion. And then in this pose, you just have your legs zipped together and your pillows can support you. And then you can slowly lay your body down. Don't worry about reaching so far. Just kind of let your body like naturally curve into it. And so when I was a kid, it was like not only stuff, like physical stuff that I was holding on to, something that I struggled a lot with was like letting go of places. And I don't know if you've experienced this before, but for example, when I was in grade 12, my high school was being torn down. They had spent 4 years building a brand new school, and they had agreed to this in like 2003, and this was 2010, so it was long gone, right? There was nothing that I could do about it. And yet me as this 17-year-old editor-in-chief of the school newspaper, I was like running headline articles like "Save Our School," which is just ridiculous because like, you know, they made the agreement and signed the contract 7 years ago, and like, what was my article gonna do? I don't know. But for some reason, I felt like if they tore down this school, that there would be like this piece of me that I wouldn't ever have again. And I remember just like crying on my last day in the school because I was so sad it was being torn down. And I'm not saying that it's like not valid to grieve these things, because, you know, we have to grieve to move forward, but you know, the new school that they built was beautiful. And we all went back for our commencement and in the fall, and we were all like, oh my God, it's gonna be so different. Our school is gone, but all my friends were there. All my teachers were there. It was in almost the same physical place. It was just next door. The bricks were built. They had carried over the old bricks from the old school. Like, yeah, it was sad, and I miss that physical school. I still miss it, but it's not something that, you know, is the end of the world to let go of. When I go back to my old high school, my teachers are still there, and it's still like a loving reunion, whether or not it's in the first building or the second one. And I think sometimes we as humans get so attached to these things that we don't realize that it's not the physical thing that is so important to us, but meaning can be made from it in other ways and other places. Right? Like Christmas dinner at my house, we had a big transition year when my parents divorced and my grandfather died. And, you know, I'm like, what's Christmas going to be like? It's never going to be the same. And then my grandma decided, let's all go to Jamaica for Christmas every year. And Christmas is like 100 times better than it ever was because I'm on the beach in Jamaica. And again, it's just like when we're afraid of letting go, we don't know what we're going to receive from it. But oftentimes it ends up being like something amazing and something we could have never anticipated or expected. I'm definitely not an expert in letting go by any means. It's like an ongoing work in progress. But there's so many different things that we as humans have attachments to that are unnecessary, that are worth exploring. And for every single one of us, it's something different. Right? For me in the past, it might have been alcohol, and for you, it might be a relationship that you know is not serving you, whether it's a partner or a friend. And it could be a job that you feel like you're ready to move on from, but you're afraid of pulling the trigger. Could be a house that you're moving out of. You know, it has years and years of memories, and it's hard to detach. Whatever it is that you're working with, maybe acknowledging that and kind of reflecting on it. You don't need to be hard on yourself for holding on. Maybe you can start to consider the process of loosening that grip a little bit. What could that look like? And what could it feel like? What could it lead you to? Let's stay in this forward fold for just another breath. we're going to make our way up out of it. Nice stretch. Take the pillows to one side. You bend your knees and just let your knees go back and forth. And then we're going to bring ourselves onto our backs. And we're going to drop into a spinal twist. So you might want to have your pillows nearby. I'm going to have one underneath my head. And then you're going to take both knees over to the left. And then open your arms. I like to put them in cactus arms. You can have them super wide if you want. And then send your gaze over to the right. You know, another way that you can support yourself here, you can always put a pillow in between your thighs. That can be super nice. And I'll set a timer here so that we make sure we do each side evenly. We'll be here for about 5 minutes. You know where my timer app is on my phone. That's how zoned out I am. Okay, I don't need a timer. I know what time it is, whatever. So on a deeper note, and I've been sharing about this a lot in my classes lately. The biggest way that letting go has been part of my life over the past year was obviously when I gave up alcohol. And this was the hardest thing that I ever had to let go of, because I was raised in a community and a culture where drinking was expected. Oh God, that reminds me actually, my uncle texted me this morning. I think he's 1,500 days alcohol free, and I forgot to text him back. I'm gonna call him after this class. But anyway, I grew up in a household where my dad would have a rum and Coke every single night. And my mom would drink wine on the weekend. And my uncle spent every night at the pub, and, you know, my grandparents would supervise me with like their glass of wine in their hand. And obviously I'm aware after moving to the Middle East that everyone's family is not like that. But what I have learned is that Canadians love to party. And so I was raised around excessive drinking. And then when I was a teenager, I thought excessive drinking was cool. And I carried on and so forth for like about 12 years. And I honestly think it's like pretty crazy that at the same time as excessively drinking as I was, like drinking every night, not to excess, but you know, I'd have a glass of wine almost every night or two with dinner and then party on the weekend. And for some reason, I was still capable of having a full-time job, being a yoga teacher, like accomplishing so much stuff while like constantly being exhausted and hungover. Anyway, when I finally let go of this I don't know if it was necessarily addiction. I don't like to use that word, but this habit and this behavior, I was terrified. I was so terrified that I didn't quit for like, 4 years. I wanted to, but I couldn't. And when I finally quit, the beginning was like really hard. But then it became like the most beautiful time of my life I had ever experienced. Oh my God, I remember being up in the morning, driving to work at 6:30 in the morning, and the sun would be rising over Abu Dhabi, and I would be like, I'm so thankful that I'm not hungover. And I would be driving by the Grand Mosque, and I would be like, this is the most beautiful building I have ever seen. And it was always beautiful, but like when you're looking at it with rested and energetic eyes, it's just like every day felt like a miracle and everything felt like magical. Let's stay in this twist for one more breath. And then we're going to carry over onto the opposite side. So shimmying your way, supporting yourself with a pillow, dropping the knees to one side, opening the arms and settling the gaze. I mean, that's the biggest example from my life of being afraid or being hesitant to let go. And then when I finally let go, it was like the best thing I could have ever imagined. So we're going to be in this twist for 5 more minutes. I talk a lot in these classes on purpose, and the reason why is because 60 minutes is like way too long to be left alone with your thoughts. It's really hard to stay in the present moment. But I'm going to leave you on this side, just in silence to experience whatever you're experiencing. Maybe you can use the tool of going back to the breath. Maybe you're thinking about starting to be okay with letting go of something, whatever that is. Then know that I'll bring you back from this twist when the time's up. Take one more round of breath here. And then we're going to snuggle our way up into a legs up the wall of Vipariti Karani. I love to finish this class with this pose. I think it's the best pose in all of yoga. I actually haven't taught this pose for like years and years because the studios I've been teaching in haven't had enough wall space. So anyway, I'm sorry, I've been teaching it a lot these days, but I hope you guys like it as much as me. So first of all, if you don't have a wall, you can always just do this, but it's like a bit too active for me. If you don't have a wall, you could also like put your legs up on a couch like this. Okay, but if you do have a wall, you can lay your pillows down. And you're gonna snuggle your hip up to the wall. And then lay your body back. And so you've probably heard me talk about the benefits of this pose. Reverses our blood flow. It sends the blood back from the legs into the heart and the head. Calms the mind. It can kind of reduce some of our worries, some of our sadness. It's a really mild forward fold at the hips. And so while we're here, we're going to explore a bit of a breathing meditation. Feel free to take it or leave it. We're going to take a kind of breathing called box breathing. And basically what you're going to do is inhale for a 4, hold for a 4, exhale for a 4, and hold for a 4. And I like to imagine drawing a little box in my brain. Okay, so you can start with just a neutral inhale. And then exhale. And you're going to breathe in for 4, 3, 2, 1, and hold the breath for 4, 3, 2, and then 1, and exhale for 4, 3, 2, and then 1, and hold your breath. 2, 1, inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Keep going like this. I'm aware that retaining your breath is sometimes not comforting to people. And if you're one of those people, just breathe normally. It doesn't make you better at yoga if you're doing this or not. It's just an option. For me, counting my breath has always helped me come into the present moment. Kind of gives my mind something easy to focus on. Let's take one more round. And then take a normal inhale. Take a normal exhale. And then take a normal inhale. And take a normal exhale. So we're going to make our way into a final resting pose or a shavasana. If you want to stay with your legs up the wall, feel free. If you want to come into a seated meditation or a regular shavasana, go ahead. I can bring myself closer to the computer. And I have to tell you guys something. I did this whole vinyasa and restorative thing just as a one-off. But I really enjoyed that combination. I'll have to get some feedback if you guys want this a regular thing, because that would be cool. So let yourself drop into stillness. So Aparigraha. In this culture of more that we live in, it is quite hard to sell the concept of less. And the yogic requirement of minimalism, that we move through life shedding self-defeating behaviors, doesn't need to be explained or defended. The reason why this simple concept has merited so much elaboration in yogic texts over the years is because we are born with a tendency to hold on. Given a choice, we hold on. It's human nature to rationalize, to overanalyze, to generalize, to minimize. And when we make a commitment to our practice, the obstacles of progress suddenly come into clear focus. And that's when we're called upon to practice vairagya, which is the Sanskrit term for letting go. So aparigraha, it's non-hoarding. Vairagya, it's letting go, and these concepts kind of link hand in hand. The Tao Te Ching tells us that in the pursuit of knowledge, every day something is added. But in the practice of the Tao, every day something is dropped. And so it is as we begin to live our yoga. There's this sense of liberation and lightness as we begin to renounce the very things that have held us back. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly all your life. You were only waiting for this moment to arrive. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see all your life. You were only waiting for this moment to be free. Blackbird fly. Blackbird fly. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly all your life. You were only waiting moment to arrive. You were only waiting for this moment to arrive. You were only waiting moment to arrive. If you're in your seat, just stay in your seat. If you're on your back or still in legs up the wall or whatever, you start to make your way up. And then maybe you take your palms into your heart center. Lengthen up through the spine. Let's join together with an Om sound if you want. Even though we're not physically in the same room. I was reading one of my favorite books on yoga today, and my teacher, Rolf, he wrote about how there is this undeniable energy when you enter a room of people practicing yoga together. And I think we've all felt that before in our lives. And even though we're not in the room together right now, I hope that we can all feel each other's energy. There's 20 of us. And as you chant this Om, try to connect to this energy which spreads continents and countries and locations all the way from the Middle East to Europe to the USA to Canada. So we will inhale and exhale and then inhale through to make our Om. So take a breath in. And then a breath out. And a breath in. We close with the intention that our yoga practice serves and benefits all beings everywhere. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. And may all beings walk on the path towards freedom. Freedom from whatever ties them down and locks them in. You know, freedom to let go and move forward. Thank you so much for sharing the space and the practice today. For those of you that attended 3 classes with me, you are amazing. For those of you that stayed for back-to-back, that was super cool. For those of you that just joined in now, thank you for being part of this. May we all have lovely evenings or days, afternoons, whatever. Om Shanti, 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 peace. Namaste.
Mindful Life Practice.